Hi, my name is Jennifer Smith, and this is my third video with Jeremy Indica and Something to Say. 2.5 years ago, I posted a video about my story and also another video reading an impact statement where I took my abuser to court. So I'm happy to be back. This video ends well, which I'm really grateful for, and I'm happy to give an update. I grew up with a lot of abuse and neglect in my childhood outside of my sexual abuse with my abuser. I'm an immigrant from the United Kingdom, and I came over with my father when I was 12 years old, and he is a criminal, has a double life, kind of hopped me around from home to home, and kind of just left me with people that I didn't really know. He was very psychologically and physically abusive. He did not sexually abuse me, but he did not hold back in abusing me every other way. So this kind of set the precedent for me having abuse be normal in my life until I was probably in my early 20s. When I was 12 years old, he left me with a Mormon family. They were feeling charitable, I guess, and took me in, and he kind of just left me there. And I became a convert to the Mormon church. My abuser met me through this family. He was a family friend already. And if you know anything about the Mormon community, they are very much like community-based. The religion, in my opinion, is like probably the biggest part of being in Mormonism is the sense of community. So this Mormon community, they often would have the kids get together for game nights. Even the adults had their own little groups, and my abuser met me at one of these kid game nights. In religious communities, it's not really uncommon for adults to be around kids, you know, like organizing things or keeping kids safe. But it is weird looking back. My abuser was like the adult in these kid game nights at like parks and stuff, but he was like the only adult there. He wasn't there to chaperone or anything. He was there to have fun. So he was hanging out with kids for fun, not for like religious duties or whatever, which is very weird, obviously, but in the Mormon community, nobody really batted an eye because that was kind of relatively a normal thing that he would do. It was just normalized that he would be there often if we were ever playing big rowdy games where kids were running around into each other and stuff, like physical contact games. So he showed up at this game night, and then he asked me if he could get my number for practicality, like disguising his predation as practicality, so he could organize more game nights with me. That night when I first met him, it was a capture of the flag game, and he was just really flirty with me. He was making a lot of eye contact. Obviously, he got my number. He was just kind of making me feel a bit more concentrated on than all the other kids in the group. There was also a lot of physical contact in the game. I remember him like touching my waist. I remember him grabbing my legs. I remember him being like very physical with me throughout the game. It was like very overwhelming, but I didn't really question if it was normal because in my mind I was like, there's no way this 19-year-old boy, I'm 12, there's no way this 19-year-old boy is flirting with me. That doesn't happen. That's never happened to me. Kids get catcalled, unfortunately, all the time by adult men, but I've never had a man like touch me. I've never had him grab me. I've never had him look me in the eyes and tell me I'm pretty. Like, I've never had those things happen. So there's no way this man is flirting with me. That would be inappropriate. There's no way. But surely enough, he was. He was texting me really fast, telling me that he thought I was special and that I seem really mature for my age, that I'm really cool and funny, and that he never connects with people like the way he connected with me, and that he has a feeling me and him should be in contact. He wants to be my friend, yada, yada, yada. Just grooming, a lot of psychological grooming. And as a kid coming from a background with a lot of neglect, like I said before, which is kind of why I mentioned it, kind of very important context to stories like this, because I kind of become this perfect prey for him, where I'm a child that's been kind of starved of attention and love, and here he is giving me that. And of course, like a very typical human nature to kind of cling on to that as a kid when you haven't ever had that level of love and support. So I really loved that he was all of a sudden treating me really nicely. He was texting me all the time. The messages escalated into dirty messages. I never reciprocated them because I remember just being afraid and I had no idea what to do. I remember being completely like, what do I even say? Like, as a 12-year-old, you don't know how to do dirty text, you don't know how to do anything like that. I remember having a lot of adrenaline, but it's very interesting because I did not have a crush on this guy. I actually thought he was very ugly. He's very vulgar. He makes a lot of sexual jokes, even around kids. He's a very like unpleasant person to be around. He's very narcissistic. So I actually did not have a crush on him. I thought I did at the time, but looking back, I more so at the beginning had a crush on the amount of affection he was giving me, the amount of attention he was giving me. And that's kind of how it started. And I think he knew that. So he kind of just started to flood my life. I think as soon as he saw his opening with me, he just flooded my entire life. Everything, he became the centerpiece of my life. I was very dependent on him emotionally quite quickly because he just made himself there all the time. He became my go-to person. He took it on as his role. So before you know it, he is at my house. He's convincing the family I'm staying with, if he can hang out with me, that they can trust him, that he would never do anything sexual with me. He even bargained with them and said he would do chores if he could see me alone, without of which they bought, which is very toxic and not good, obviously, but they did. And yeah, it was a very bad experience, a very textbook grooming experience, not just on me, but on my community around me. He was sending gifts to my house. He was writing me love letters, that of which came very handy when I went to court against him and showed them. He just, if it wasn't predation at that time, which it obviously was, it would also be stalking. He just was constantly in my life all the time. And I just let it happen. And I started to have feelings for him. I started to grow romantic feelings for him, as any kid would do. And yeah, it was gross. So then he started sexually abusing me in broad daylight on the porch of this relatively busy suburb, in the family home that I was staying at. And that's why I feel very called to share my story, because sexual abuse isn't always this thing that's happening in the dark closet of your house. And you know, it's, I don't know, I was abused out in the open, where people were highly suspecting that we were romantic, if not outright knew we were romantic. He was telling me to keep it a secret. He was telling me, he was telling others that he was looking out for me and that I was his best friend, and that he saw himself as a mentor. But then my immediate family I was with, he was straight up telling them that he loved me, but that he would never do anything sexual with me, that they could trust him. And meanwhile, he's telling me to keep it all a secret, that the world, quote, wouldn't understand our love. And I kept it a secret. I was afraid. I never did anything to him. He only did stuff to me, but I let it happen because I wanted to really make him happy. I wanted to meet the maturity level of somebody of his age, and I felt like obligated. And if I didn't do those things, then maybe he would get bored and leave my life. I also was simply afraid of telling anybody because, one, I was a kid and kids are just simply afraid of getting in trouble, but then I was also afraid because I was a part of this obviously very conservative religion that has a lot of purity culture. So even though I was just a recipient of abuse, I still felt as though I would be shamed for it, or I would get in trouble for it. So I didn't say anything. And then for him too, I just didn't feel like it was, I didn't want to get him in trouble. I didn't want to cause him any chaos in his life. I didn't want anything bad to happen to him because I really genuinely had feelings for him. I really wanted the best for him. I was a very empathetic kid, and I wouldn't have wanted that on anybody. But there was a lot of shaming and a lot of guilt tripping. He of course made me feel really bad about the idea of ever saying anything, and that, quote, he would go to jail and his life would be over, all because he simply loves me. There's a lot of really grooming, manipulation, and Stockholm syndrome that I was experiencing at that age, that I had no idea what those things were until I was 23 and started to take it legal. So when I was around 23, I got in a really healthy relationship, and that just kind of set this backdrop of contrast between all the abuse I'd experienced in my life. And it became really apparent to me just how obvious it was that I was abused. It was very gradual, and over the years I was in different relationships, I started to piece together that I was abused. People would tell me, Jen, this wasn't normal. But literally until I was in my early 20s, I thought that it was love. And I thought that it was just a weird situation, but it wasn't ill will, it wasn't abuse, it was just maybe different. But now that I'm older, it's really obvious. Some of the sexual abuse he did to me, some of it was him pretending to be loving towards me, but it was also a lot of times really violent. But I thought that was normal. I just didn't think that anything was, I thought everything was different, but it wasn't all bad. There were good times. There were times where he really loved me and did things for me. So yeah, as I started to get older, I started to realize, and then I took him to court. I decided to take it legal, and I won. And it was so chaotic, I don't have the time to really talk about everything that I went through in my healing journey with all of that, because I really can't describe how much it ripped my spirit apart, coming to terms with everything. And I lost a lot of people in that process. I had to come to terms with, not only did he abuse me, but a whole community let me down. It was really heart-wrenching, but I'm glad to say that I have gotten through to the other side. I went to a lot of therapy. I'll probably always go to therapy, not just over this, but over my crazy life generally. But I really have came out the other side, and I'm doing really well now. A big part of that is because I've had the rare privilege of winning the case against him, which I know is so hard for victims to ever do. And I'm so grateful that I got that to happen. But yeah, maybe I'll go over that in a different video sometime. But I do want to end this video on a note talking to victims. I don't know if the healing journey ever ends. It will always change and mold, but I do know that your healing journey is yours and yours alone. I'm rooting for you if you've went through this, or you're a community member and you know somebody who is going through this or has went through this. 1, believe them. 2, please allow them to have all of the ugly stages of healing that are absolutely crucial to feeling whole and free and happy. I felt so much stigma just of getting angry. I felt like I should forgive. I felt like I need to be more positive. I felt like I just received a lot of toxic positivity, and I'm so glad that the majority of the support I got online was overwhelmingly great, but I really did not have community holding me through my healing journey. It was really me alone. And then I also had the online community that was sending me really sweet messages, which I'm so grateful for. But unfortunately, a portion of that online community was very negative and sending me a lot of toxic positivity. If you're a victim or you're a community member of someone who is going through this, please stop toxic positivity. You do not need, if you're a victim, you do not need to forgive your abuser or anybody. You can still be happy, whole, and healthy. I don't forgive my abuser. I don't forgive anybody. But that being said, I'm not angry anymore, but I don't need to forgive them. Everybody really messed up. And I am totally okay with saying that. I allowed myself to be angry. I allowed myself to cry. I allowed myself to just be pissed off. And weirdly enough, I'm happier and freer and less angry than I've ever been, unintentionally so. But that is kind of just a natural consequence of me allowing myself the freedom to just heal in whatever way my healing journey wanted to take me. Everybody's healing journey is different. Please allow yourself the space to be your authentic self and honor yourself enough to whatever, get mad, whatever. I am sending you all the love and light in the world. Things get better. I never thought that things would get better when I was in the thick of everything and processing my entire life and the sexual abuse on top of it. Up until my 20s, I thought that I would never be okay, and only in recent years I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, life actually might be good for me. I'm actually liking my life. Things get better, please know that. Even if you don't feel it right now, things will work out. They'll be okay. Sending you all the love in the world. Yeah, that's it. I'm happy to be here and believe victims. Okay,